Hey guys, finally the K1 in 25 arrived to my door. Now I gotta be honest, this is not gonna be just an unboxing video, as I had a K1 in 25 in my hands previously, and I will be able to tell you a little bit more about it than just what you will see in the box. Here it is. Look at that. This is nice. Okay, so here is the K1, and as with 22 version, you get a short user manual in English, and you get some tools for adjusting the pressure, of course. Let me take those out. So two Allen keys. This one is for adjusting the power, so the pressure actually, not the power. And you get the quick fill probe for filling the gun. So that's about it what you get in the box. So here is the K1. It is basically the same as the latest version of the 22. With, of course, having the 22 magazine and the 22 barrel. Now the barrel on this one is slightly shorter. Instead of 60 centimeters, so 600 millimeters, it's actually 4 centimeters shorter, so it's 560 millimeters. And that's actually a good choice if you ask me, because first of all, since the design of the whole gun is the same, so the plenum is the same size, the regulated chamber, and the magazine is not much longer, there is really no point of having too long barrel, because the pressure will drop by the time the pellet or the slug is getting towards the end. And on the other hand, they had a challenge to make this gun quiet. Of course, bigger caliber is usually louder, and the shroud dimension and everything is the same. So what they did is shorten the barrel by 4 centimeters and leaving this area empty in order to be able to get that expanded air back into the shroud more efficient than on 22. So in fact, the 25 caliber is actually quieter. So it's not as loud as the 22, which was quite a surprise to me. Regarding power, the maximum I was able to get was about 135, 140 joules. So that's just under 100 foot-pounds. That was with my 48 grain slug, which is just the correct power actually. It makes sense in terms of appropriate velocity for stability, as well as getting a good range results. Now you have to have the regulator set to about 200 bars to achieve those powers. So you cannot do it anymore with 170, 180 like you did with 22 caliber. So you need a slightly higher pressure in order to get those slugs close to 1,000 feet per second, let's say. But of course, if you shoot pellets, then definitely lower pressure are more than enough. So as I mentioned, you get all the latest parts, so all the, let's say the latest version of the K1 with the 25. So one of these things is that this part is actually now a monolith, so basically it's a single part for the Picatinny rail and both clamps for the barrel and cylinder. And also, as it was now for a while in the latest version of the 22, the Picatinny is actually genuine standard Picatinny with square grooves and not with round like it was on the earlier models, earlier versions. The regulator is the latest version on this one, meaning that it's very easy to adjust. As soon as you adjust it to a certain pressure, it will stay in that position. That was actually solved quite a while ago. There is a new pressure gauge, slightly different than it was before, just in terms of looks and in terms of how it's placed inside. I believe the rear part, this one is slightly thicker, so this is actually where the opening valve hits to. There is a buffer in between, but this is what stops the opening valve from going out of the gun. And of course, this has to be quite rigid and strongly made. Of course, the magazine is in 25 caliber, and this time it's actually not grooved. It doesn't have grooves, meaning that it's more similar than the first version of the 22 K1. Now the dimension, internal dimension of the magazine hole is about 6.45 millimeters. And this is actually very important, because based on that you can decide what kind of slugs or pellets you can put inside. With pellets it's generally not a problem, because all pellets will fit inside, assuming that they are not longer than 11 millimeters. But with slugs, for example, my slugs, they fit very snugly and you can hardly push them in. So sizing to 6.45 millimeter is recommended. And from now I also talk to MP molds. If you will order the molds from now on, they will come. You will have an option to get the sizing die with the mold as well, if you choose to. If you don't want, if you can get the one yourself or you don't need it, if you can get it locally, that's fine. You don't have to get it. Just so you know that if you only cast them, you will need to use some force to press them in, and you need to press them in fully, because otherwise they might jam. Of course, that's obvious, because they will protrude out. From what I've seen so far, and also what I was told, this gun should be a lot less pellet picky, meaning that it should shoot JSB pellets and other pellets very well. I will test this definitely, but definitely if you do shoot pellets, make sure you shoot them at appropriate velocity, because this is of course K1, you can really go overboard with power here. So if you shoot pellets with too high velocity, don't expect to have good accuracy. So in terms of acceptable velocity for pellets, I would just say for JSB, because this is, let's say, the typical pellet to be used. Regular Kings up to 900 feet per second, that's my recommendation. Kings Heavy, I would go, if you got the regular Kings Heavy, so not the MK2, I would go up to about 900 feet per second or even less. And with Kings Heavy MK2 only to about 250 meters per second. That's about 850, or 830 feet per second. So this is, let's say, the threshold of stability of those pellets at regular barrels. Speaking of barrels, as usual, K1 has a standard Lothar-Walther barrel with the choke. So it is choked barrel, as I mentioned, slightly shorter than on version 22, but it is a standard Lothar-Walther barrel. And the whole gun really now has been perfected in terms of having a good forcing cone in order to really let's say optimize performance, because as you know, K1 is shooting from the magazine, and this can be, let's say, the biggest reason why this gun would ever be pellet picky, because it has that transfer from the magazine into the barrel at high powers, and if not everything is not perfect at that point, you get slight damage on the pellet, which of course causes the pellet instability. But having said that, this one should be much better than that, and I will definitely test this in as much detail as I can. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe, thumbs up or thumbs down if you don't like this kind of videos, and see you in the next one. By the way, make sure that you visit Huben at Iowa. and I will also be there, and I will also have more answers from Huben directly when I come back, and definitely in the next videos you can expect more informations for the things I haven't mentioned in this video. So I will put the booth number of Huben in the description below, and make sure you check that out, and if you're at Iowa, make sure you go to their booth. Thank you. By the way, Huben also sent me pressure gauge for the unregulated chamber. So let's zoom this in slightly. So this is something that a lot of you wanted to see on K1. Unfortunately, this is not a standard part of K1, so basically this can be purchased separately. So it's just an end cap with the pressure gauge. So basically you replace the original one with this one. Of course you have to empty the chamber first and get the pressure out. And then you get this nice gauge which shows you unregulated pressure, as well as you can of course fill the gun through the standard Huben fill probe. So this is a really nice feature that, well, I will be very happy to have this on mine, because this makes shooting much easier.